Welcome to Reel 9, a podcast devoted to obscure cinema. This is part one of a two-part series on the career of director Stuart Gordon.
Wonderful! This is Radio Freedom.
Hello and welcome to Reel 9. I'm Dungeon Dan.
And I'm Creepy Uncle Kevin. And today's podcast, we're going to be talking about Stuart Gordon. Originally, when we were starting this podcast, we were going to do it about Re-Animator, focusing only on the Re-Animator films and their offsprings and stuff, because they're re-releasing that on Blu-ray July 25th, probably when this podcast is going to drop. Who's releasing that, Dan? Do you know?
Arrow Video.
Not the Scream or the Shout guys?
No, which is amazing. Arrow Video actually released a collector's edition of Bride of Re-Animator, and it's a beautiful set, and it has a ton of extra stuff. Comes with little booklets and all kinds of neat things. So I always wondered why they chose that one first instead of the original Re-Animator. But like you said, next month, nice boxed edition. If you go on to Amazon, it'll show you what the box is going to look like, and I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait either. Elite, because I have my 3-disc collectors of Re-Animator. They put out a really good version of it, too. I'm surprised to see what's going to be extra in this new one.
Yeah, I haven't read through the list yet.
So, yeah, we're going to do a show about Re-Animator, and then we thought maybe we should just do a top 5 about Stuart Gordon, and then we thought, let's just talk about Stuart Gordon in general.
Better thought.
Yeah, so that's where we're at right now. And who is Stuart Gordon? Well, he is a bald, white, overweight American man, just like us. So it's great. And it's a name that I can pronounce. I'm excited about it.
No buzzer.
Right. No buzzers on this one. There might be a few. We'll see. His birthday was August 11th, 1947. His sign is a Leo. I don't know if that
Why do we need to know his sign?
Because I think it's funny. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. All my exes were always fascinated by astrological charts and stuff. So if you want to look them up and be like, oh, he's a sign of a Leo. Let's see what kind of day he's having. I don't know, Dan.
Well, hey, I get it now. By the way, I'm an Aries.
Oh, you are? I'm an Aquarius, sign of water. So you guys can look that up too now. He was born in Chicago, Illinois, and he studied at the School of University of Wisconsin. And there he majored in theatrical play directing. And his first show was done in 1967, so I guess he was 20 years old. And his first show was titled The Game Show. And in this play, I guess what he did was he had half of the audience were actually stage actors or people that he knew. And somehow during the play, the people that were on stage would end up humiliating and degrading and getting in fistfights or even sexually humiliating people and even fake raping members of the audience.
Kill everyone now!
Until the actual audience members would get in arguments with the people performing the play and actually get in fights and riot until they were set free, because they locked all the doors too. So if they got it to try and leave, the doors would be locked.
So let me get this right. Guy created a play where if you weren't one of the plants, you thought you were watching somebody get beat up or raped or something like that.
Yeah. That's called
How's that even entertaining?
And it's called The Game Show, so I guess it's interacting with the audience. So then the guys are like, oh, come on here, babe, I want to grab you by the pussy, or something. And people are like, hey, that's not right. Or, I'll fuck you. Or, I have no idea.
It's an interesting concept, but it's kind of on the twisted side.
Yeah. And I know they didn't get in trouble for this one. They get in trouble later, but even here in Gordon in his youth, right, you can already tell that he's exploring shock value.
Right.
And what he can get out of that, audience reactions, how people will react from that. He's already getting off on it, which I think, because Stuart Gordon to me isn't a horror fan, I don't believe. I mean, he likes horror films, and I've heard him talk about it. Like he said, Abbott and Costello was the first horror film. Like Meet Dr. Jekyll or something was the first horror film he saw, and it scared him. And but I don't think he's a really horror fan. But, later when he makes Re-Animator, he was certainly going for the shock. And I think at a young age, he understood that, which is interesting. So it was in 1968 after that where he formed a theater group called Screw Theater, which is
nice.
Yeah, I think that name's hilarious. And it's funny because people, I think, will automatically think that it's some sort of pornographic thing. But in a way, he's saying, fuck plays. But that can sound pornographic, too. But he's saying, screw theater, screw cinema or whatever.
Right.
And under that banner, he produced and directed 4 shows. And this is where he also met a girl named Carolyn Purdy. It's like Purdy, not Purdy. I don't know.
Okay.
Carolyn Purdy. Carolyn Purdy. I don't know what her original maiden name is, but that's
Sure are purdy.
You sure are Purdy, Caroline. But that's his future wife, and they made 4 plays together, I think, during this time. And I know one of the plays was a modern-day adaptation of Peter Pan. Peter Pan.
I've heard about this one. Yeah, I believe you're the one that told me about it.
This
is the one with the hippie.
Right. So I guess he kept all the original dialogue from the Peter Pan play and just changed the scenarios. So Peter Pan this time is a hippie protest leader, and Captain Hook is playing the mayor of whatever city, and his fleet of pirates are instead the cops. And Tinker Bell is like some kind of drug dealer, and instead of sprinkling them with pixie dust, she's giving them LSD.
That's it's weird.
And instead of going to Neverland, they go on this intense acid trip. And to try and convey the acid trip, I guess Stuart got 7 naked women to stand on stage, and then he projected this trippy footage on their naked bodies.
That is so weird. I think he was on LSD at the time.
It seems like it. I mean, just to have that idea, they must have been on something. It's 68.
It's a cool idea. I mean, completely switch it up to modern time, real, but you keep all the original dialogue in?
Yeah.
Is this available anywhere to see?
I assume not. If it was done in 1968 or 1969, they didn't even have VHS then. So if any footage exists, it'd probably be shot on Super 8 or 16 millimeter.
That there's got to be an aging hippie out there somewhere that has it. God damn it!
What is that?
It's my fucking computer. It's going off. Hang on. Let me see if I can.
Nothing. You don't hear a beeping sound.
So yeah,
all right.
If there is a copy out there, I'm sure only he has it, and it's probably shot without sound on Super 8 or 16 millimeter or something. But pretty hilarious. So this got them in trouble eventually. I'm not sure how this went down, but eventually the police arrived and arrested Stuart Gordon and his soon-to-be wife Carolyn on obscenity charges. And I guess they had to spend at least a night overnight in jail. And that's where he really found a fondness for Carolyn. After this, later in interviews, he's like, that's how I found my wife. When you get arrested with someone, you really share a bond. Even though I'm thinking in my head, it's not like they shared a cell together, which would be.
I was going to say.
Yeah, that'd be way cooler if he had to court her in jail, like in a cell or something.
Accept me.
But
follow me.
So after this, they got released, and the University of Wisconsin demanded that all future Screw Theater productions were overseen by a professor. Stuart Gordon said, fuck you, and left that place like a rock star. Him and Carolyn then created a theater company called the Organic Theater Company, and they did this for about a decade. And
really?
I believe this wasn't even associated with the University of Wisconsin. Also worth noting is somewhere in between this time, he met the screenwriter David Mamet, and they became friends before David Mamet became the, Tony Award-winning writer that he is for writing, I think, the play version of Glengarry Glen Ross, which became one of these legendary drama films about the sales business. And he also wrote The Untouchables, which was a huge film.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, so before David Mamet was famous, Stuart Gordon was directing his plays.
Well, that's cool.
Written plays, yeah. And then later, David Mamet came back to him, and Stuart Gordon got to direct one of his screenplays for the film Edmund, which is pretty good. We'll talk about that movie later.
Okay.
So Carolyn and him made these 30 plays, and a decade passes. They end up getting married during this time, and I don't know if it was during this time, but they do have a total of 3 kids.
Right.
But, so also during this time, they were writing together, and they wrote a TV movie called Bleacher Bums that came out in 1979. You've seen that one, right, Dan?
No, I've never heard of it. I can't even imagine what it's about.
It's about their friends. I know that. It's written about them and their friends, and I think going to ball games kind of thing. Or I guess it's about baseball players. Yeah, Bleacher Bums.
Yeah, okay, I get it.
But it's an ensemble cast piece, and it's loosely based about, actual friends that they know. They're just putting them in this baseball scenario, and
well, it's good information. I never heard of it.
Yeah. Well, it's not directed by him. It's directed by a guy named Sal Rubinek, whoever that is. But I have a note of it. So then more time passes, and Stuart Gordon feels success out of this, though. He's like, wow, I wrote something and it got shown on TV. That's awesome. What else could I do for TV? So he starts thinking about ideas, and people are telling him that no matter what, how much money you sink into a horror production, it's going to make its money back, if not more.
Which is
horror
true.
Always makes money, which is true, especially back then. This
Back
is in
then,
the 80s.
it was definite. If you needed to make cash for a different type of movie, you do a horror movie first.
Yeah.
This is back when it was all starting, I mean, horror movies have been around a long time, but it was the 70s and 80s where it just took off.
Yeah, and now it's not the same because there's VOD and all that streaming stuff. So many horror films are coming out. It's just throw another one in the pack.
Right.
But back in the 80s, it was a good idea. So, not Lovecraft, I'm sorry. Stuart Gordon was thinking about what kind of horror film would I want to make, what are good ideas, and he was thinking Frankenstein, if he could re-update Frankenstein in some way. So he was talking to people about that, and one of his friends recommended that he reads H.P. Lovecraft's Herbert West.
Herbert West Re-Animator?
Herbert West Re-Animator, yeah.
I've never read that story, but I think I should get that book and check it out.
I know, and I guess it's not even a book. I think it's only 25, 30 pages or something, 50 pages maybe.
One of the shorts.
Yeah, it's just a short
A lot of
story.
his were just short stories.
Uh-huh.
Very few of them were like big, long novel things.
Well, that's what, even From Beyond, which we'll get to, that's a 7-page story. So I think Herbert West is a really short story. Anyway, the story about him, the story about him reading the story is that he went to the library in Wisconsin, and they did have a copy of it, and they had this old, original, battered copy, and he had to, give them his driver's license and go into a room and read it on the property.
Yeah, not that I'm that old, okay, but I am. Back then, you couldn't just go to a bookstore for some of this stuff. So you go to a library, and if it's a rare book, which this one is, you can't take it home. You have to sit in the library and read it there and leave it there. So that it must have taken them a long time to get that book, because I doubt that the library in Wisconsin had it. They probably had to order it from another library.
No, they had it, and he had to go in this strange room and read it. And I guess the papers, he said they were breaking apart in his hand. It was in this actual old magazine thing that was released, I don't know when. Wow. It was the first printing of it. And he said the pages were breaking, and he asked if he could Xerox it, and they let him do it. You got to imagine, this is even before. Nowadays, we just pull out our cell phone and take a picture of it.
Exactly.
So, I'll blow it up, clear it out, and clear it up on the computer and everything. They're all, that's an awfully dim photograph you took of it. Trust me. Just put that shit in Photoshop.
Yep. It's all fixed. You can read it perfectly.
Isn't it weird? It all sounds so archaic now. Go to the library, be put in this room and read it. Ask to use a Xerox machine. Even Xeroxing sounds archaic now, kind of.
It is. I don't even know what to say about it. I've never been to a library since I was a teenager because there's no need.
Right. So also an interesting thing is that during this process, he found out, while trying to get the rights to H.P. Lovecraft's Re-Animator, that all of H.P. Lovecraft's stuff is in public domain. I don't know if that's true right now, or I guess it would have to be. I don't know if he has relatives or how the rights would go.
I don't know.
But apparently...
if you don't renew your rights, you don't get to keep them.
Yeah. So Lovecraft stuff is free. And you get to keep the name. That's crazy.
That's awesome.
So where was I? Let's see. So he read that story and decided to adapt it into a teleplay. And he thought he was going to turn it into a TV show, which is frickin' bizarre. So he went to the guys who I guess did Bleacher Bums and was trying to sell it as a TV idea and was getting rejected over and over again. I don't know how many times he tried this until he met another friend. See, he's hanging out with the right people. Another friend who knows, he says he knows this Puerto Rican sleazeball named Brian Hughes. I'm just kidding. He knows this stinky Filipino guy. No, Brian Usna, he's a great guy. He knows this guy who's a wannabe producer named Brian Usna, and he's trying to make a movie. He wants to throw money at a movie, and particularly a horror film. So Stuart Gordon meets Brian Usna, and they both have never made a movie, and for some reason Usna has access to money, and they decide to repolish the script into a feature film. And thus begins what we are calling the Gordon-Usna trilogy. And I'm not sure how Charles Band really fits into this, but somewhere he came along. I don't think Charles Band has credit on Re-Animator, though, as producer, does he? Do you know?
No, I don't think so.
I know he did the soundtrack for it. And
Really? He did music?
Yeah, he did the song for it. Kind of looking at his filmography right now to see, but I don't see him credited for Re-Animator.
I'm looking at the back of the DVD case, and the lettering is so small I cannot see what he's being credited with. But Richard Band is on there.
Right. So, well, there was a company that was willing to give Brian Usna financing for it, or is that Bride? Now I'm getting some stuff confused here. But I know Charles Band came on, and he did produce the next two movies. So Usna and Gordon somehow got the money together to make this movie. And I guess they were casting a lot of people, and they saw Jeffrey Combs came in. And
Right.
he just blew them away right away. Right when he came in, they thought he was definitely going to be Herbert West. And I guess it was kind of weird because Herbert West in the story is described as a very attractive, blonde, blue-eyed man. Blonde, blue-haired guy. This is still in the Peter Pan, after the Peter Pan play. There, he's blonde and he's got blue hair.
Yep, exactly.
But he was supposed to be some young, California beautiful guy or something. And Jeffrey Combs came walking in, and they said, "Oh, you got it." And was this Jeffrey Combs' first movie?
It's the first one I ever knew about, and I was going to bring up on YouTube. There's a show, incredibly strange film show or something like that, where they're actually they're talking to, fucking can't think of his name.
Stuart Gordon.
No,
Jeffrey Combs?
well, they're talking to him too,
Brian
Jeffrey
Usna.
Combs, and they're talking to him on set, and he's just like this little dude with a kind of a mellow but high voice. I don't know. It threw me off when he was talking in his normal self.
He just seems like some square from drama theater
Right.
who just got
Right.
this role. They're asking him, "How'd you get into character to play this madman?" He puts on the glasses and looks serious. He's all, "That's it."
That was funny.
It's like he didn't even have to
He's
get
all,
into
That's
character.
all I do.
Yep. So I'll put on the glasses. That's it. I'm him. I'm looking at his filmography. He actually was in The Man with Two Brains right before this.
Was Steve Martin?
Yeah, it says he plays a guy named Dr. Jones.
Oh, how great.
And he plays Stu in Frightmare. I don't know, but this is the first time he got a lead role, that's for sure.
And this, like I said, this is the first time I ever really, when I hear Jeffrey Combs, I always think of Re-Animator because that's the first time I saw him.
How would our normal viewers know him? He was in Frighteners. I don't know if people have seen that much. He's in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he played a real asshole in that show.
Yeah, he's a face. He's got
say more,
126 credits. And we can't even find something that would have the average normal person recognize him. The best one we got is Frighteners. Didn't he appear in The Hobbit or anything? No.
No, not that I can remember.
Man, this guy's like the master of bit parts.
He's one of those guys. You know him when you see him. He's been the starring role in a few things, but nothing huge. But he's always that actor that you remember from whatever you saw. For me,
Yep.
Re-Animator, Bride of Re-Animator, and the one I don't like talking about,
Beyond.
Re-Animator.
Yep, I own it too, Dan.
But,
Also,
yeah, I love that Jeffrey Combs, man.
and the other casting, they got the chick from, what was the soap opera? Young and the Restless.
Uh-huh.
And she
Barbara
also
Crampton.
was in Bold and the Beautiful, and she was in Guiding Light. She was in frickin' 3 soap operas. I think she's on Young and the Restless for 7 years or 11 years or something. Playing the role of, what is it, Lena Love. Lena Love. 2 L's. I always think that's cheesy when they have the two same letters in their name. But yeah, that was pretty wild when she came into it, and she was just this regular TV soap opera queen, and in this movie, she's completely butt naked.
Uh-huh. And I think I like the fact that they did that because she is famous for her soap opera days. No doubt about it. She was one of the main people. So now you got her in a horror film. That, number one, is cool. But yeah, she does complete nude scene and has a severed head going down on her.
Yep.
It doesn't get better than this, folks. If you haven't seen Re-Animator, this is it. You got to watch it just for that scene.
That's the scene, and it totally worked. I was watching this interview with Gordon, and he was talking about that scene, and he said they knew while they were writing it, they just wanted one scene in the movie that everyone would have to talk about. Whether they liked the movie or not, they would talk about that scene, it would stick out of their head, and they didn't know what it was, and then they said, how about the decapitated head going down on a girl?
Yep.
They said, hell, we got
Good call.
it. That's a good call. That even made it like the Japanese posters. That's on the poster, man.
The Japanese always have the best damn posters.
They do. That's just like, what the fuck? I want to see that. It's all Japanese, written in bloody letters. There's some girl screaming with her legs spread open, and this body holding a decapitated head between her legs. It's like, what
It's
the
great.
hell?
Japanese know how to do it, man. Yeah, they're getting it right.
And then Barbara Cranston has become this huge scream queen after this.
Yes, now she starts doing more horror movies.
Yeah, she came out in Body Double, Chopping Mall, the Puppet Master movie, Castle Freak. You're
Castle
Next.
Freak.
She's in current ones too. You're Next. We Are Still Here.
We're Still Here.
Death House. She's in that Beyond the Gates, which she also produced. That one's new. It's on Netflix right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we talked about that.
And I think, actually, I have her filmography here. She's got like 7 movies coming up, too. She's in all this stuff. She's in the new Puppet Master film. Oh, she's also in this good movie called Little Sisters. Little Sister. It's a drama. It's like this goth drama about a nun whose brother came out of the Iraq War. Anyway, she plays a nun in it. It's a trippy movie. Goth kids would like it.
I never heard of it, but I do know I remember seeing her in Tales of Halloween, even though I wasn't really that huge on that one.
Yeah.
I know everybody else says it's great. I thought they missed their mark, sorry. But we're not talking about that.
Yeah.
But she was in that. I think she played a witch, right?
Yep. And she's in Lords of Salem, playing a witch.
Another movie I just did not like.
Yeah, I only saw. I don't remember it that well because I didn't like it. I never saw it again. Such a buzzkill.
It took me a couple viewings just to get through it one time.
I remember
just
it being
bored-
kind of
bored me.
claustrophobic or something. I don't know. It didn't work. But anyway, back to Re-Animator. And then we also had, I don't even know, who was the head effects person on there? Because John Carl Buechler, this was, I think, one of his first films? Or, no, he just did Ghoulies.
Yeah, he'd done Ghoulies and something else prior to that. I think, wasn't it Troll? Oh, he directed Troll.
Yeah, I don't think that was prior, though.
No?
Let me see.
Well,
But-
he definitely did the effects for Re-Animator, and I got to tell you, he did some great stuff. By the way, this is back when they did everything practical. There is no CGI, none of that stuff.
There were no
So-
post effects added to this movie.
No, it was just trick lighting in some places, setting your camera up in the right spot, and having some badass prosthetics and bodies.
You know, we haven't even explained what this movie's about.
Wow, how did we miss that?
By the way, so
Herbert West is at the top of his class in medical school.
How can you teach such drivel? These people are here to learn, and you're closing their minds before they even have a chance. What are
He's brilliant, but a little weird.
I've broken the 6 to 12 minute barrier. I've conquered brain death.
His experiments have always been unorthodox.
It was dead.
But lately, they're getting out of hand.
this film's about a doctor named Herbert West who is inventing a potion that'll reanimate the dead and bring the dead to life. But instead, when the people are brought back to life, they're kind of like spun out on crystal meth and just like ready to not even eat you, just destroy you and destroy things and kill people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're almost zombie-like, but it's like, zombies on speed or something.
Yep.
They're not trying to eat your brains or anything like that. They're going to kill you if they get their hands on you, but apparently they like to break everything in the room.
Yeah.
Herbert West brought a lot of dead people back to life. And not one of them showed any appreciation.
Well, Gordon said that he gave the actors directions saying, okay, pretend you're in a coma. You just woke up from a coma on a huge dose of speed and you're angry as hell.
Right.
And the actors are like, okay.
Oh, that was me yesterday.
Right.
Well, so Herbert West, in this movie, he starts off with a different doctor. And it's just the opening sequence.
Right.
But this is where we get to see that everything's gone wrong. And, of course, he tests his serum on this doctor. So we already know what it does. But he has to relocate. So he finds himself at the Miskatonic University, where he meets David Gale playing Dr. Hill.
Man, you said Miskatonic correctly. Good job. So, yeah, he meets David Gale, who he...
David Gale is Dr. Hill. He's the neurosurgeon that everybody thinks is so great. And Herbert West does everything just to possibly, to piss him off in front of other people and tell him how inadequate he is.
Uh-huh.
By the way, this film actually instead of him always voicing out, Herbert West would snap pencils whenever he disagreed with Dr. Hill. And it got to a point where every time Hill would hear a pencil snap, he's just like, class is over.
Right.
Mr. West, get the hell out.
Yeah, he goes, Mr. West, I suggest you get a pen.
Oh, this movie's great on every level. So anyway, is there more we need to say about it?
I guess we're kind of leaving it spoiler free. So he ends up moving in with another student, and he's starting to conduct experiments with a dead cat. That's one of the things that we got to point out, though, about Stuart. In a lot of his movies, he seems to kill the pet, or at least in his first couple. I know in this one he kills the cat not only once but twice. And
right.
that scene is both hilarious and disturbing at the same time, but it's just a blast.
It's a fucking cat.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know how much we should really cover about the whole entire film.
Well, it's like I would love to just do a rant on this film, but we are kind of talking about Stuart Gordon and
right,
the body of work, but this is just such an awesome movie, and it's obviously on our most loved list.
Right.
By the way, if we were doing a top 5, where would you place Re-Animator?
Oh, this would be my number one for sure.
Yeah, it would be my number one as well.
It's kind of almost sad looking over his body of work and just, the first one was your best. The one,
and it kind of goes downhill after that.
After you learned how to do it, you started to suck. That's not what we're saying, Gordon. But still, that one has the cult classic material on there. It's just so shocking, and there's so many iconic scenes in there, and there's so many one-liners that it's a great, fucking funny movie. I think even normal people would like this movie because it's fun.
Right.
It's a fun, memorable
It is
film.
overly gory and violent, but anybody would watch
I'd
this,
even
I
kind of
think.
pair it with sort of like the Evil Dead 2 kind of movies, right?
Okay.
It's
I'll
hyper violent.
do that.
It's a fun horror film,
There's tons of good one-liners. They're not even meant to be funny. They're funny though.
Right. And also worth noting is that there's 2 cuts on there, maybe several now that they're releasing it for its frickin' 4th time or something on DVD. But there's an uncut one. The MPAA gave it an X rating, and of course they didn't release that. But what's funny is that they ended up, because they censored all this gore footage, they added some of the footage that Stuart Gordon cut out into the R-rated one. So the R-rated version is 96 minutes long, and the uncut director's cut is 86, 10 minutes shorter.
Wow.
So they cut out like 7 minutes of gore, and then they cut in 15 minutes of subplot that Stuart Gordon cut out about the Dr. David Gale having some sort of hypnosis powers.
Which becomes prevalent in Beyond Re-Animator.
Right. Even though it's kind of unexplained. It was a subplot. And they,
Well,
I guess...
got a question.
Yeah.
I got a question. How the hell can it get an X rating and have to cut the gore out, but even in the R-rated version, the head goes down on Barbara Crandon?
I've never seen the R-rated version, I don't think. Not to my knowledge.
Well, I don't know. I know that when this movie came out, it was back in the VHS days, and I rented it.
Yeah.
And I remember that scene. I've seen what they say is an uncut version, but I'm not 100% sure it is. And it's been released, 3 different times?
Yeah.
Including that set that you have that I don't. It's like 3 disc long.
Yep.
I'm just hoping that we get like every version possible on the upcoming re-release of Re-Animator from Arrow Video.
Yeah, there will be every release possible on that version, but it's important to note that Stuart Gordon says watch the 86-minute version. There's no reason to watch that other stuff. It scenes that he cut out with David Gale. Even though originally he wrote it in the script and he decided that it was too much having 2 psychos because he was already focusing on Herbert West, who's the psycho, the main crazy guy.
Right.
And then he was like, almost to have an equal guy. He's like this mad wizard running around with a chopped off head. There's too many bad guys. Even though it's like nowadays, man, you're working on this like unbreakable parallel. So got this guy and like Split or something, 2 weird characters. Could have the Re-Animator shared universe.
Right.
Have a prequel about David Gale and his hypnosis background. I don't know, dude.
I don't know either. Personally, for me, I didn't really look at it as 2 psychos. I looked at it more like 2 psychos with a fucking... I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Each one thinks they're better than the other, and they try to outdo each other.
Well, I kind of don't look at Herbert West as a psycho either, because I'm taking his side. in a way.
Well, I'm taking his side, but I still look at him as a nutcase because, let's face it, he is so single-mindedly focused on this reanimation stuff. He's not even paying attention to the fact that it goes wrong, everybody dies, but he keeps doing it.
I know, and
He's
hey,
all
let's
like,
break into the morgue and try it again.
Right. He's all like, I didn't fail, they failed, not me. I'm like, really?
Yeah, he's illegally fucking around with dead people. That's a dumb idea.
Well, it's a good idea for a horror movie.
Man, this makes me want to see it, though. That first scene when they go in the morgue and they reanimate that guy and they have to take care of him with the bone saw thing without giving too much away is frickin' classic.
Yeah, it is.
Even his
It's
scream when
great.
he reanimates does this like loud like scream and he's just like foaming at the mouth. So epic. You know, even the timing and the editing of all the gore shots, the effects in this scene is just it's energetic, frenetic. Even the soundtrack works. It's one of the best low budget movies. I would say cinematically, it kind of looks tame. It sort of does have, you know, it's a first feature. It's not too stylized like an Argento film or anything. It's very like on a tripod, you know, still shots. But some of the
they didn't try to do anything crazy.
yeah, but some of the content just works. And I don't know if it's just because they were young. There's something so good about that movie. So while we're talking about that, we got to talk about the legacy that it kind of left behind also. Really quick, before we talk about Bride, I want to say that there was a musical version of this made. That came out in 2011. And I guess Stuart Gordon was very involved in it. The guy who came up with the idea was a college friend of his. He approached him and said, hey, I want to make it into a musical. Gordon said, that's hilarious. Let's do it. And he worked with the guy writing the screenplay for the play musical. And he even helped him cast the people, the audience members that were in it. Not the audience members, I mean the cast. The cast.
Yeah, the cast.
So,
well, I've heard about that musical, and I've never seen it. I've been trying to get my hands on it, but I can't seem to get it anywhere. So anybody out there got it? Let us know.
It's out there. I know that. And hopefully this will help us track it down.
I hope so.
Yep. I can't wait to see it. I saw the Evil Dead musical.
I haven't seen that yet either, and I heard it was great.
Oh, it's awesome.
And the audience gets just soaked in fake blood.
Yeah, the front row they all turn pink. It's kind of cheesy, though, when that fake blood comes out on them, and it just looks like bright pink, and it's not dark red. I don't know.
Right.
It's like a bad Guar show or something.
I don't know. They're probably just thinking about what cleanup's going to be like.
Yep. But anyway, let's fast forward a little bit while we're still talking about Re-Animator. So Yuzna and Gordon made 2 more films after this, and then Gordon went off with Charles Band, and I guess Yuzna tried to make his own production company and exclude Band from whatever he was working on because now they're competing, they're competition. And Yuzna had the rights to Re-Animator because it was his first film too, and he wanted Stuart Gordon to come and make it for him, but Gordon was already signed on to, I think, making Robot Jocks, which we'll be talking about soon. So he was unavailable to work on Bride of Re-Animator, and then Yuzna was like thinking about it. And this is where Yuzna, to me, I mean, he's greedy, all right? And that's what I didn't like about his interviews. And that's why I was kind of like commenting on him poorly beforehand. The only reason he wanted to break into Hollywood was for money. You know, he wasn't the film guy, man. He wasn't us, you know. He wasn't the cinephile. He's like, I want to make money in Hollywood. How do I do that? Okay, I become what role do you want to have in filmmaking? Well, who makes the most money? The producer. Okay, I want that role. And then he was a producer, and he was making the most money. And then he was like, oh, wait a minute, but who gets all the credit? Not the producer. Oh, the director does. Okay, well, I want all the credit, too. So I'll be the producer and the director. And so that's when he heard Stuart Gordon was busy making something for Charles Band, and he's like, oh, fuck it. I'm going to make my directorial debut with Bride of Re-Animator.
You'll never get credit for my discovery. Who's going to believe a talking head? Get a job in a sideshow.
So he calls up Barbara Crampton, and she's like, no.
Get a job in a sideshow.
And I'm not really quite sure as to why she said no. Some people say because it was such a small part that it was beneath her. But I kind of think it was because of Stuart Gordon. But I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Being more loyal to Gordon.
Yeah.
Hey, I agree with you. Yuzna comes across as an arrogant prick. There's no doubt about it.
Yep. And she showed up in Gordon's later movies, too. I mean, she came out in From Beyond, later in Castle Freak. And so she seems to have dedication to him.
Right.
And she seems like a cool chick too, because like her filmography goes on forever, and you can tell she's producing movies. So whoever she's rolling with, I think she's a dedicated actress like that. So anyway, he went on and made Bride of Re-Animator, which I think was successful, even though it was kind of corny and it could have been a little bigger. But what do you think?
Well, what it comes down to is, again, this movie came out in 2 different versions. I don't know how important the opening floating head of David Gale, taunting West is, but to me it added something to the movie. That wasn't in the original release. Bride of Re-Animator is great. It picks up from where Re-Animator stops.
Yep.
With the lights going dark and all you can see is the glowing syringe, and then you see it getting shot into, well, it's Barbara Crampton. So yeah, it kind of picks it up. And I think isn't Bride where they came up with the Miskatonic Massacre? Referring to what happened to
First off, it's
Miskatonic.
Crampton, not Crandon, and it's Miskatonic, okay?
Okay.
But
Fine,
yeah, so
buzz
they're
me.
like it opens and they're in a war. Well, we're not going to try and totally talk about what basically what
No,
happens
no.
is Bruce Abbott's girlfriend, who's played by Barbara Crampton, dies at the end of Re-Animator, and in Bride, they're trying to bring her back. And you know what's interesting is they had already agreed that they were going to call the movie Bride of Re-Animator regardless, and for a while they were fucking around about just making another H.P. Lovecraft story and not having it relate at all to the film Re-Animator, but just calling it Bride of Re-Animator and doing all these H.P. Lovecraft sequels under that banner, Re-Animator, which would have been interesting.
Right.
And also during this time, they were talking about making a movie where Herbert West's character has to go save the president and reanimate him, which then became a screenplay for House of Re-Animator, because they were writing this or coming up with a sequel idea just after Reagan had gotten shot. And so they got the idea of doing that. And they're still trying to make the film House of Re-Animator, but we're going to get to that in a second also. So after Bride of Re-Animator comes out, which was successful, in my opinion, because they hired some of the most top-notch special effects people out there to come out here. Can Be and Screaming Mad George.
Yeah.
And I think there was even another crew. I think they had 3 crews working on this movie at the same time.
They had to have.
Yep.
I mean, Bride is just so cram-packed with practical effects, you'd have to have 3 teams.
Yep. And they're all just coming up with weird shit. I think Screaming Mad George comes up with this idea where his fingers can be attached with an eyeball and stuff crawling around, and they're just going, yes, let's use that. Comes up with ideas, a 2-faced figure, let's use that. Kept throwing things in there. And that's how the movie stands out. There's so many awesome practical effects moments in there that are even like the stills, the paused images from this movie of the props are amazing, I think.
I think so, too. I also like the fact that the character of Herbert West is so full of himself that he's got reanimated things that he's got holed up somewhere, and anytime he hears them, he's just like quiet.
Oh yeah,
he didn't even care about it anymore.
He's got that whole like basement full of things all walled up, failed experiments. Yeah. There was even, in my opinion, he was kind of taking ideas from some of Giger's drawings, where Giger had one of his famous paintings. There's like an arm attached to a leg, and I think they have some of those in his basement, stuff like that. Some of his failed experimentations with attaching body parts.
I'm not sure if that was. I'm not sure if that was the production's vision or just Screaming Mad George, because that guy comes up with some of the coolest stuff. I mean, I guess he draws as well, paints.
Yep.
Does makeup effects. I know he's got a band.
Yep, the Mad.
Yeah. I just thought of something. We were talking about how Stuart Gordon wanted to, do Frankenstein.
Right.
You think there's any correlation or any animosity coming from Usna by making Bride of Re-Animator, which, if we watch the movie, is really like Bride of Frankenstein?
I just think Usna is looking for the next buck. By any means, he's thinking like a businessman. I don't think he's really thinking about ripping off or anything like that. I don't think he's doing anything deliberately. I think he's going, yeah, Gordon has the right idea. Good track. Can you work on this? No, you're with Charles Band? All right, guys, come on. I'm making my first movie. Let's just get all these people together, blah, blah, blah. Hurry up. And they rewrote the script because the one that he was working on with Gordon was the President one. So after he figured out that he was busy, he went and hired some other people to rewrite it. And there was something like lacking about the movie, though, compared to the original. You know, it wasn't better than Re-Animator, but there certainly were more special effects in the film.
And bigger.
Yeah.
Stitching that girl together, hence the Frankenstein.
Yep.
When she reanimates it, it's brilliant. But I'll be honest with you, as much as I liked the job that actress did, her screaming, "What do you want?" got on my nerves. I mean, it fucking pissed me off at one point. I'm just like, stop saying that.
No, she totally bothered me in that role. And, well, I know you in a lot of your reviews, you comment on the way people look, but I did not like her face. Her face bothered me in that movie, man. She was not Barbara Crampton. It seemed like she had a big face, and I don't know. Something about her physicality, just her as a real person, bothered me. I don't know what she was doing in that movie.
I can't put a finger on it, but I would say the shortcomings probably came from her direction.
Yeah.
Dead. She's just an assembly of dead tissue.
Not intentionally. I don't think it was intentional. I just think her character was kind of weak. It was stronger when they were just putting all the different body parts together trying to build her.
Yeah.
But then when she actually reanimates, it's just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Why did she explode?
Because she was overdosing from all the
that's right.
fluid.
Yeah, they got jacked up on the reanimation fluids.
Yeah, that whole sequence is pretty badass. But it's still it's cut poorly. You can tell he's filming some action. He doesn't know how to put the stuff together and make it seem like there's no fluidity. You know, it's not like this is all happening at the same time. It seems like certain effect shots are cut over there. You can tell they're shot separately. You know, he doesn't make it feel like everything is happening at the same time.
The fight scene.
Yeah.
The fight scene between the bride and the girlfriend went on way too long.
Uh-huh. Oh, the girlfriend's corny as hell, too.
Oh, she is. Do you remember Herbert West's line? He's all like, Dan, your girlfriend doesn't stand a chance.
Right.
Our woman is superior. I'm just like, and that's the attitude I was trying to say. His attitude toward his reanimation is so different in Bride than it was in the first one. Mm-hmm. And I liked it.
How dare you judge my work?
Well, and then they fuck it up even more. Years later, I think Usna now has started another company, if I'm correct. I don't know when he started Fantastic Films, if that's what it is. I think he went overseas, and he was starting some company in Spain or something. Anyway, so he decides to make Beyond Re-Animator just to cash in again, and he's doing it very, very low budget. He has access to a jail cell to shoot a movie, and he pretty much writes it around that. And comes out with one of your favorite sequels, Dan, Beyond Re-Animator.
I didn't care for that one at all. Nope. It did bother me that it was all in this jailhouse. I mean, we really didn't go anywhere.
The whole thing bothered me. First off, it bothered me that I ran across it already on a shelf at a video store. I didn't hear about it getting made, and I'm a horror fan, man. I should have been knowing about this. And just the cover looks cheesy. This close-up still shot of Jeffrey Combs with the fluid, and it's just like the font looked bad. Beyond Re-Animator, and of course I'm excited to watch it. The quality of the film was worse than the previous two. The way it was shot was even more like made for TV, or even worse than that. It's just very low budget. I don't remember much of it. I hated it, and I think it.
I don't remember much either. There was nothing for me to remember other than the fact that they're running around a jailhouse.
There's not a lot of special effects either, which is like why. No. And yeah, I completely.
Thanks,
fucked it up. Yeah, I screwed up the whole trilogy franchise. And meanwhile, Gordon has been still working on House of Re-Animator, which is the idea of Herbert West going to reanimate the president with Bruce Abbott. And I believe the idea is that they abduct Bruce Abbott and take him to the White House where the president has just been assassinated. And they get there, and there's Herbert West, who's been calling for an assistant. Because they already got Herbert West, and he has to reanimate the president. And the president is to be played by William H. Macy.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, the guy from Fargo and the guy who's from Stuart Gordon's Edmund. And William H. Macy, by the way, is still down to do it. Gordon and him are friends, and they've been using that as a selling device, going William H. Macy in House of Re-Animator. So we'll see. Now they're trying to shop it around again, I guess, because Donald Trump right now, as we're recording, is the president. So, of course, they're coming up with ideas about that, since they'll totally make money. Everything about killing a president right now is in for some fucked up reason in America. And so hopefully we'll see. We'll see if that that comes up. But that's the Re-Animator legacy. Anything else that's spawned from Re-Animator that's happened?
No.
No cartoons,
No, it's just-
comics?
Comics, yes. They came out with some graphic novels of it.
Oh, they did? I didn't know that.
But from what I remember, it's just basically a comic book version of the movies.
Uh-huh.
You know, that was a phase for a while.
Yeah, why do they do
did
that?
They did that for like Evil Dead and
Fulci.
Yeah, and it was kind of neat. I actually own most of them, but I haven't looked at them for years.
Necromantic.
Necromantic.
I got the Necromantic comic.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, how fucked up is that?
It looks pretty
I know
bad.
how the movie is.
Drawings aren't that good, but it looks kind of interesting.
I still remember the movie. That was a mind fuck.
Yeah. All right, so now we're moving on.
Hey, yo, DJ, stop!
Stop this. How can they stop this?
All right, and that wraps up part 1 of our Stuart Gordon discussion. Make sure you listen to part 2 where we have more fun discussing life after Re-Animator. And please, post your comments below. Thanks for listening, guys. Out.
You're pretty happy today.
What?
I said you're pretty happy today.
Yeah, why not? I got nothing to worry about. Woo!